So, good morning or good evening. I'm so excited to be here with Pankhuri Seghal, our new director of Girl Power Project in India. We couldn't be more excited getting to this moment during the pandemic and COVID. Obviously, so much of the world is shut down, and India is still struggling tremendously, but we are able to make some progress and begin working with you. So, Pankhuri, I was hoping you could just take a moment to introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about your background and what attracted you to this Girl Power Project opportunity in Rishikesh, India.
Hi, Vivian. Thank you for having me firstly, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Um, just to give an introduction, I would start with that as a little girl, I always knew that when I grew up, I'll be working to change the things that just seems unfair to me. And I was always curious to understand why there was so much inequality and discrimination. And so when I completed my schooling from my hometown, which is in Meerut, it's the tier two city in India, I went ahead to pursue my bachelor's and master's in English literature. I loved
Wow.
reading feminist literature, post-colonial, literature, and because of my interest in women's studies, I also opted courses in gender studies. Um, After gaining that academic experience, I wanted to be on the ground, use my knowledge and passion to work in the social sector. And women empowerment has always been a cause that has been close to my heart. Um, it's been more than 8 years. And since then, I've been taking up projects where I started off my career with working with women who were trapped into intergenerational prostitution. So I was developing and designing preventive programs for at-risk women trapped in intergenerational prostitution. And during the span of my career, I have worked with women in all spheres, you know, the Dalit women, doubly marginalized, refugee Muslim women, and women trapped in unorganized sector. So that has been my, core area of work. And I've also done my master's in psychology because I was also interested to have trauma-informed interventions when I was working with, women. And from last 3 to 4 years, I would say that I'm in this role of an educator uh, where I'm working passionately in the field of empathy and leadership-centric education towards youth and women empowerment.
Wow, that's so amazing. I could spend an hour talking to you about all of that. Maybe we'll have a series on that. I'm uh, super interested in, I think, just your hands-on experience, sort of the wins and the, sort of heartbreaks must be incredible stories. So I hope you're journaling and going to write a book about your work. It sounds so incredibly impactful. So thank you for what you've been doing. So maybe you could tell us a little bit right now what the situation is for girls, even before the pandemic, even before COVID, and why this is an appealing opportunity for you.
Hmm. Um, so, Vivian, historically, I would say Indian women has been made to adopt contradictory roles. The strength of a woman is evoked to ensure that women effectively play the traditional roles of nurturance as daughters, wives, sisters, and daughter-in-laws. And on the other hand, you will see the stereotype of a weak and helpless woman, is fostered to ensure complete dependence on the male sex. Having said that, today's India offers a lot of opportunities to women, with women having a voice in everyday life, the business world, and also we see, uh, campaigns happening and policies being, built for better participation, even in political life. But nevertheless, India is still a male dominated society. And while women are guaranteed equality under the constitution, legal protection has a limited effect where, patriarchal traditions prevail. So if you talk about the, what 2/3 of the population of India resides in rural villages, and I would say that is the untapped, women potential over there.
Yeah.
And more so, you would see, gender based inequality and gender based violence in these communities and in these, regions, starting from the birth. In fact, before the birth, we are aware of the infanticide, feticide in India, child marriages, the declining sex ratio, and also, like, literacy rate is, if you compare it with boys, is so low. So if you talk about the present, scenario in India, and yes, the nation is developing, and we see in metros women are, you know, mm, coming forward and they are in their leadership roles. But I would say still it's a long road uh, towards, empowerment of women, because most of the women in rural India are still struggling with all these issues.
So I would I would assume, and based on what you're saying, is that there's just a huge disparity between the urban and rural situation in many situations where there's, we know of India to be so so advanced in terms of education and the commitment to it, um, and also that there are so many to whom this advancement isn't getting to. Would you say that that's true, that there's a big disparity?
Yeah, yes. I mean, um, uh, if you see one of the reports by UNESCO, 40% of the world child marriages occur in India. It's
Wow.
appalling. Yeah, and
And
we do.
what constitutes a child marriage? Under what age, and what is the law?
So there is Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, which bans marriage below 18 years for girls. But still, if you go to the villages, we see that girls are being married as young as 12, 11. So, so that is why, although in the Constitution, we see that yes, it's women have the right to equality of education, and we have, acts like Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, but its implementation, or where there is like patriarchal traditional, culture prevails, we see that women are paying the cost, and such a big cost, in terms of, we have, as I said, female feticide, infanticide, and a lot of abuse and domestic violence with marriageable rape. And it's that vicious cycle where you see that an illiterate woman is uh, is married off at a young age, child marriage, married off at a young age, and then she is abused, and she doesn't know about her rights. She doesn't know about how to take care of a family, or the children, or whether it's important for her daughters to get educated, and that the vicious cycle continues. And so it is very important that we break that chain. And that's why I feel that education, and education specifically for girls, is so important, because when you educate a girl, it's like you empower the whole family.
Yeah, that's so that's so beautiful and true. And it sounds so similar to what we've experienced and worked with in Uganda in terms of the law is there.
Mhm.
It is the law of the land, but it's not enforced in those rural communities because a culture and the way of life uh, requires such an upheaval in the perception of the communities to make that happen. And so that is why we developed Girl Power Project, of course, in hand with Ugandan women who could really help us to understand that cultural context, that it's not just about the girl, it's about having the community understand the value to stand up for the girl. And so I'm so excited that we're going to be able to work with you because you just see this need 100%, and I'm sure that you'll know exactly what to do with this tool. So yeah, I think we're all locked arm in arm in the tremendous need for it, the heartbreaking situation if even one girl falls into a circumstance like this and their potential is stomped out, when we know that girls can just be such an incredible solution, not just in their own lives, but in their families, in their communities, and in their countries, and in the world. So um, I,
I
I'm
totally agree.
yeah, and I'm just going to mention we have a group of women, Chai Mamas, they call themselves. It's a group of South Asian women in the US who are 100% behind girl power. And, maybe we can have you address them at some point. They're just so excited and interested, knowing that their cultural heritage is amazing and also extremely suppressive in some ways. So thank you for that. And now I obviously the elephant on the table here, as we call it, is the pandemic and what's happening in India. And I was hoping that maybe you could just sort of take a minute to outline what you see happening just in general. I know that case rates as of today are dropping, but the situation is still so horrible. And then how you see this impacting those girls that we were just talking about as well.
Okay. Um, yeah, COVID pandemic, it, it, it's literally, changed everything, I would say. It has been a nightmare for the world and more so for India in the present, scenario. Uh, More than 300, thousand deaths in India due to COVID. And it's so heartbreaking. And the numbers are going down, but I would say that it is too soon to tell whether the world's biggest COVID outbreak is easing because the virus is now spreading into rural areas. As I said, where 2/3 of the Indian population resides, and also where access to testing and medical care is very limited. The hospitals are full, testing is scanty, illiteracy is high, and more so the deaths are not registered. So
Yeah.
it's a very situation is something that no one has ever thought that we would land up into this. And in fact, the other day I saw one video recorded by the villagers where bloated bodies can be seen washing up on the banks of the river Ganges in the northern India. So there is a lot of grief and fear, um, along with right now there's shortage of vaccines as well. And the hope is that the wave subsides and vaccines are made available to the masses. Um, Having said that, this whole scenario has all the more impacted, the vulnerable communities. And specifically, if we talk about, girls, I would say that two things I would like to show light on. Firstly, that limited and gendered access to technology. In India, if you see, if there is in a household, if there is a phone or a tablet or internet, it's usually the boy or the men in the family who have access in comparison to women because they are mostly engaged in domestic work. And because of the pandemic, the domestic violence rates have gone up, child marriages rates have gone up. And there are chances that once the schools are opened, there would be dropout rates of girls because they have been married off. And uh, because of unemployment, already there was unemployment in terms of women having not equally employed as men, but more so now I see that girls and are more vulnerable in this situation after pandemic. So it's very important that the reliance on only technology enabled situation solutions for continuation of education, should be looked in perspective that most of the women don't have access to technology.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, in a developing country where there is so much technology that it's gender specific who has access to it. I hadn't thought of that before. Um, yeah, thank you for illuminating that. And Pankhuri, I was going to ask you a question. Is there a story that you have in your mind that you've encountered during the amazing work that you've been doing in India for the past 8 years, where I think you said it was 8 years, where it was sort of a bit of tragedy, but then there was some victory in some of the interventions that you were able to work with. Is there a story that comes to mind, or like one girl that you know of that you can envision uh, bringing this work to that you think would really benefit? Just a specific encounter that you've had.
There have been so many stories, and that is why I believe in this work, Vivin, because I have seen that the moment you give a hand to a girl and she feels that there is someone supporting you and someone who believes in you, you see how that girl completely transforms her life, not only her but her own community. And to share one of the story, I would say that I remember I was doing a program where we were going into the hinterlands of the villages in Uttar Pradesh, that's the biggest city in state in India, and that program was basically about bringing out the entrepreneurial, success stories of women in villages. And I happened to meet a girl there who was very young, and she was who was very young, and she was on the verge of getting married, but she resisted. And she asked her father that, I don't want to get married. And the father said that, I can't take care of you. And obviously, girls are seen more as a liability. And she was aware of it. So she said, give me 1 year, and not only will I take responsibility of my life, but I will take care of the whole household. Give me
Wow.
1 year. And and when I talked to her, I still remember the sparkling eyes and the confidence with which she was narrating her own success story, where she said that after that, she did a course of, she did the course of beautician course, and
She did a
in
course of
her
what?
uh, beautician,
Oh,
she
beautician. Yeah.
yeah, yes. And she said that I started off with just, one chair and a small mirror. And in her little room, she had her own, you know, practice, and she was actually adorning all the, girls in the villages during marriages. And even she was going to other towns, and through YouTube videos, she was learning how to do that work. And that was, wow, that was an amazing entrepreneurial story. And at the same time, she said that while doing this, I realized that once I started earning, I realized my value. I realized that my voice matters. And now I'm investing more into my education. I'm investing more into the education of my younger siblings.
Mm.
So that was one, incident that just came to my mind when we're talking about this, that how important it is that we bring leadership, tools and provide entrepreneurship skills to these girls, because they have such tremendous amount of, potential. Um, yeah.
Wow, that's a really, really beautiful story. And that's, that's the kind of girl that I think you'll find that end up being your support, right? Like they end up becoming the mentors that are so impactful for other girls. And, that's really built into Girl Power Project as well, that we develop mentors who might be a little bit older than the girls that Girl Power Project is being delivered to. I mean, one of the things that we've discovered in our research, and it's in the research as well, is that mentors, if they're just a little bit older, have
Mhm.
more impact and more lasting impression on the girls. And so it's just like, oh, if she can do it, I can do it. And so I absolutely love that story. And it is just so inspiring to see what one girl can do. And that's really, that's our whole tagline, transforming the world, excuse me, one girl at a time.
Yes.
So, excuse me. So just in wrapping up here, thank you so much for taking the time. By the way, it's 8:30 a.m. here in San Diego, and I forgot for you to let people know where you are right now. Where are you located, and what time is it?
Right now it's 9 o'clock in the night, and I'm in Delhi. It's in northern India. It's the capital of India. And so yeah.
Yeah, and so what are you most excited about? I know we found you, we were so fortunate to sort of stumble on you as we were looking for a really powerful director for this program who I think, sort of fits the profile of what will be so impactful for girls, not only in terms of your incredible education and experience, but just your energy and your demeanor and what you can bring to the community. So, what are you most excited about? And, I have this question: if we were going to be having this conversation 3 years from now,
Mhm.
what would have had to have happened for you personally and professionally in this situation in order for you to be satisfied and content with the results?
Okay. Um, Firstly, I equally feel so, I would say, fortunate that I've been chosen to do this work, because I'm. This is a cause very personal to me and something that I've believed in, and I'm really excited because it's an evidence-based program that has already shown proven results in Uganda. So I can't wait to bring it into my community. And I know that there is a dire need for such programs because it's a very holistic programs, and it literally, you know, tackles the very problems that we are facing on the grassroots. Having said that, my personal desire, I would say that out of this program is, you know, with these trainings, with this curriculum, change makers from the community come forward. And I feel that sustainable and long term development uh, is not possible without the participation and empowerment of women and girls. And only if they participate in the economic and societal development, the full potential of my country, of India, will be unfolded. So, with that vision, I feel that this program would be a game changer for the communities. We're starting off with one community in Rishikesh, and I can't wait to see the results of these programs and change makers coming forward and bringing, solutions in their community at the ground level.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And of course, between Sadfi and the ashram and the Global Wash Alliance and so on. I mean, I think the vision is that this really does go out to the country and it becomes something as simple as a public health initiative. You know, you empower a girl, the whole world changes. And so I'm so excited on you know, the thing that really inspires me are those stories, you know, one by one of transformation where you get to have the connection and you get to see the relationships and you get to see the obstacles and then sort of changing people's minds about their belief system and what happens and how you know, no matter what, life becomes more meaningful and pleasurable when everyone gets on the same page. And so from that point of view, I'm so excited for you, and from the point of view of how to really, you know, scale this and bring it to a level where in some ways it's no longer needed, you know.
And I see, like as you said, 3 years, you know, ahead is like, you know, an army of Girl Power Project ambassadors all over India and their allies, you know. So it's self-sustainable, you know. It's like you, me, we go at the back, and this army comes to the forefront to tackle the challenges, be it personal or economic or social. And that's how I see it rolling out. So
Yeah.
that's the vision that I have in mind along with all of you.
Yeah, that's well, and I do believe that we've done that in Uganda. Of course, there's always more work to do, but for sure there is an army. So it is, your vision is possible, and I envision it as well. And I am so excited about the lives that you're going to be able to touch and the amazing community in Rishikesh that I think will welcome you with open arms. So thank you so much for your commitment. We could not be more excited to have you on board. Really, it's been a very long year with many obstacles and even more in front of us. But and also I just want to give a big shout out to Tessa Davis, our program director, who has worked so diligently to ensure that we pull you on board and make this start happening. And I know you're going to start training. I know you're going to review the curriculum that's been translated into Hindi. I know that as soon as schools go back into session, that you're going to be in a position to start delivering the curriculum and start doing the monitoring and evaluation to your point, to really document the change because it is evidence-based. And you know, we're here with you, you know, arms locked, and cannot wait to meet you face to face. So thank you so much, Pankhuri. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for having me. And it's I would say I feel very fortunate that this program is coming to India and I get to be someone who is leading this. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for this conversation too.
Yes, thank you.